America is essentially a dream.
Spins around and around. It keeps on moving, it moves all about. The water from the ocean, it swims up the shore with just enough to scare it, then swim back for more. I ask myself why.
We're here, we're wet, cancel the debt. We're here, we're wet, cancel the debt. We're here, we're wet, cancel the debt.
We're here, we're wet, take back the debt.
Morning.
We're wet, take back the debt. Make noise for the rest.
Yeah, actually, we're gonna be wetter here pretty quick.
Yeah,
Another one.
block 'em! Delegates, go back! Outside! Lincoln! You guys cheer! Hey, hey! Go home! The WTO! Hey, hey! Whoa! The WTO has got to go! Hey, hey! Go home! The WTO has got to go! Hey, hey! Go home! The WTO has got to go! Hey, hey! Go home! The WTO has got to go! Hey, hey! Go home! The WTO has got to go! Hey, hey! Get out the way. Don't push it. Don't push it. Don't touch it. Don't push it. Join us. Yeah, join us. You wanna hold our hands? You know what this is about?
Hell no.
Listen, yo, read the newspaper!
You don't have
Education!
Us? When?
Yo, you wanna hold my hand? Spots.
I want to do my golf for you over there.
What are you gonna say?
I can't speak for you. I can speak for the people in the Philippines. And probably all the third world countries.
Do you know about the
But we can go to work. You should let us go to work.
I have a question about the Philippines, actually. Do you know about the Philippines Agenda 21?
Kid, we gotta get this. We gotta get this.
Plan for the Philippines.
Yes.
You do? What's it about? I studied it when I was studying in the Philippines.
Yes, where did you study?
I studied in Manila and Mindanao with Nicanor Perlis. He's one of the people that wrote up the Sustainable Development Plan. Have you gotten it in the
I just want everyone to know that they canceled the news conference because
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you, thank you.
Okay. Agenda 21 was written up in Rio when they met, and it's a Sustainable Development Plan blueprint for the entire world. So when I was studying in the Philippines, we learned that a lot of the civil society in the Philippines were writing up Philippine Agenda 21, which was a sustainable development plan for the whole nation so that they could liberalize their markets while strategically planning their development so that everybody could benefit, so that they could take some of globalization in without taking in all the bad aspects of it. So it's really important that everyone knows about that because it's trying to be passed. So I'd be interested to ask the Philippine delegates what they thought about that or if they knew about it at all.
So you had a lot of interaction with regular people when you were in the Philippines?
Yeah, I stayed in a village. I stayed in a village called Daha, and I also stayed in a village in Mindanao where the rebels are trying to take over, and I stayed on a biodynamic farm that was trying to promote sustainable agriculture practices to countries that were to villages that were kept in debt by like bigger chemical companies like Monsanto, etc. And also I stayed at a village that was based around microfinance, and so a lot of the craftsmen we visited a lot of the houses of the craftsmen that had the opportunity to set up businesses like silk farms and bamboo mats, etc. That they had the opportunity because they could get smaller bank loans out. And I just think all those initiatives are really, really, really important because everyone needs a chance, and these are like really progressive economic and government initiatives that are trying to help the people without just saying no to like capitalism or just saying no to like all of everything. It's just trying to make a country more democratic, and it's really interesting, and I think it can work. So.
And were those initiatives that came from the people themselves?
Yeah, it was written by Nicanor Perlis. It's called the Institute for Alternative Development Initiatives in the Philippines, but they work like the People's Society, the civil society in the Philippines is really strong because a lot of the villages are organized into people's organizations, such as like our NGOs in America. And so the whole plan was come out of a conference from all the people's organizations because Nicanor runs a lot of programs that networks. Like they have, extension offices. So there'll be like a main NGO, but then it will extend and it will work from the power of the people from bottom up instead of top down. And that's where this idea came from, and that's what it's trying to promote. So.
And what format did you go over to the Philippines for? Were you a student?
Yeah, I was on a program called International Honors Program of Global Ecology. We went to England, Africa, India, Philippines, and Mexico, studying grassroots initiatives that counteract globalization, and also looking at countries that just recently liberalized and seeing the effects it has on the people, the economy, the landscape, etc. And we talked to everybody from the World Bank, like to get that view, to the people in the villages to get their view, and we tried to come up, like with a real idea of what was going on in the world, according to like this new movement of globalization, bigger is better, etc., etc. So it was an amazing program. That's why I'm here, because this stuff is so important, so important.
Cool. And how do people that are interested in getting into that program?
It's on the internet. Just look up IHP. International Honors Program, go for it. It just like educates you to be an informed and intelligent activist that has like all the information hands-on rather than just having to depend on books or speakers. You get to like see it and make up your own mind about what you think, so it's good.
And do you think that helped shape your views to bring you to this event today?
Yeah, it's like Helena Norberg Hodge that spoke at the International Forum on Globalization. She was one of the brainstorm people that thought of the program. Same with Vandava Shiva. They're all involved in this program. So it's this awesome network of just these people that are like really just want to kind of form a new paradigm. Like we're all based on different ethics. So.
Cool. Thanks for talking with us.
Yeah, I love to talk about it. Sure. Go for it.
You'll hear that? The news is the cops tried to bring tear gas in this way with the line out, and it's holding.
All right, it seems that there's been human chains formed at every intersection, and the few delegates that are trying to make their own way down to the convention center are not being allowed through. Surprisingly enough, the police on the other side aren't doing anything to either break the chain or make way to get them through. So we'll see what happens. We have two people over here, I believe, are delegates to the Philippine Ministerial, and we're going to see if we can get into the group here in a moment to ask them a few questions.
Not on the people's side. We have to express it through the different governments of this world.
The problem we have here, sir, and maybe you have that same problem in your government, the trade ministry is basically a branch of the executive branch which has the least, how should we say, access to the average people. Is it the same in your country? It seems here basically it's the multinational corporations that have greater access to the Department of Commerce and to the U.S. Trade Representative.
Well, that is true, but your standard of living here for among yourselves is very, very high compared to many other countries, compared to our own people. So you are very lucky because you can have three meals a day, while most of our people could not have that.
What do you think about
While your standard of living is very high, our standard of living is very low.
Now, it's our
And
understanding.
even in our schools, many of our children don't have books.
What do you think about canceling the debt for third world countries then? Do you think that that's a good idea?
I believe so, although it is not the right thing, because why did we have to borrow and then we cannot pay for it? It's a wrong concept. But then there are so many third world countries who cannot really afford to pay.
Well,
But most of the debt-
A lot of resources that made Western countries rich came from third world countries, but weren't really paid for when they were taken.
That is because of the war, because of the like the Philippines was under the United States for 40 years, and then we are now independent, and then we were taught by the American people how to express ourselves, and here we come to the United States to express our own feeling right there in this meeting, and then we would be stamped or blocked to come in. I don't believe that is democracy.
Well, we're not protesting your country's access. We're protesting the fact that it's all done in back rooms and that there's no access for NGOs' voices and people's voices.
Well, I believe, I understand that the American press is the freest press in the world. And then I don't know. That is what we were taught, that the American press is very free.
The American press is certainly free.
And then we express it through the press, our own opinion. And that was what we were taught by the Americans.
Does the average Filipino have access to the same press coverage as you do?
No. No, definitely not. Because there are even Filipinos who don't have any TV. There are Filipinos that cannot even read a newspaper.
Now, the information we have here is that since GATT has been in existence and since the WTO has been enforcing GATT, the conditions in the underdeveloped countries, and including yours, have actually gotten worse.
Well, precisely why we are here to express our sentiment about the WTO.
And what is that sentiment?
I'm not very happy with the WTO.
Would you share with us that sentiment?
I'm saying that now, that we are not very happy with the WTO. But
What things are you not happy about?
Because there are things that are not right.
Specifically?
Well, for example, there is free trade. There is no free entry.
For your products into our country?
Not people.
Immigration.
Yes. There is supposed to be freedom of trade, yet we are inhibited from going from one country to the others. Would you like that that should happen, so that labor force could be changed? There will be cheaper labor. It's wrong for you, but it's right for us. You see, those are things that democracy is supposed to be.
What other things would you like to see changed in the World Trade Organization?
Well, I really believe that there should be a reduction of tariff. There should be more freedom of entry of goods. But then, cost of production differs. Well, labor cost in our country is lower, but inputs are very high. So our cost of production goes higher. So those are things that has to be expressed in order that the world can be one.
What about international labor standards? Labor standards.
Precisely, labor standards differs in a country. Like our peso is only 1/40th of a dollar. So if we base it on our standard of peso, our wages are low in dollar form. So the things has to be solved.
It's not just about conversions from dollars to pesos. It's also the value.
Precisely now.
And it's also the working conditions for people.
Precisely. That is what we are trying to learn. But we cannot do it overnight.
But don't you think there should be...
Because technological transfer it takes time.
Yes. But don't you think that American corporations and multinational corporations that operate in your company and benefit in your country and benefit from the lower labor costs, don't you think that they can afford to create better working conditions, like safer factories and better facilities, and that they could actually afford to pay people more? That we have corporate CEOs in this country making disgusting amounts of money, while the people in your country you're saying can't even eat 3 meals a day. And what we're saying is there needs to be international labor standards.
That is very true. That's why American businesses goes to the third world country, because they want to get cheap labor.
They exploit it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. But then, how can we express that if you inhibit us from expressing ourselves? We are from the third world country.
Right. But we're not. Our goal isn't to block the third world countries. It's to block the entire WTO, because we've been blocked.
Well, at least here you have freedom of expression. You can go to the press.
Yes, but if the WTO itself was a democratic organization, then those laws of freedom and free expression would apply. If we could hear the proceedings, then we would feel better about democracy.
I believe that whoever organized this WTO made a wrong choice of putting it here. Because if they bring it to our country, everybody can come in and out. And we learn democracy from your country.
Could I ask your name and what party and House seat you occupy in your government?
I am a member of Congress of the Philippine government.
And what party?
We call it ourselves the LDP, Liberal Party of the Philippines.
And what is your name, sir?
Teves. Herminio Teves. I'm a congressman of Negros Island.
All right, well, thanks for talking with us on Network X today.
Don't mention it.
So could you tell us who you are and what you're doing here?
Absolutely. I am Lauren Gwynn. I am from San Francisco. I work for an organization called Project Underground, and we support communities around the world who are threatened by oil and mining operations. They're on the front lines of those industries. And we do that by supporting them directly and by exposing the human rights and environmental violations and the abuses by the companies in those industries. So for example, we did corporate campaigns. We're doing corporate campaigns on Shell, Chevron, Occidental, which is trying to go into UWA Sacred Territory down in Colombia, and the list goes on and on, Native America. So, yes.
What are you doing here in Seattle?
What I am doing here in Seattle is, first of all, I'm here as a citizen of this country. I'm here as a citizen of the world, and I am here, to represent my organization. But because the WTO essentially stands for the rolling over of all of the important things that we hold near and dear, such as human rights, such as biodiversity, such as cultural diversity, such as life forms like seeds and DNA and individual human beings that should not be patented, biopiracy, all of these different things, labor standards, things that people have fought for centuries. And they are now being subsumed by trade laws. And I'm here because this world, it's such a big question. Why am I here? I'm really here because trade laws cannot be allowed to take precedent over all of those things. And it's an entirely undemocratic process. It's completely in the dark. And I'm really demanding of my government. I'm a United States citizen. I grew up in this country. I benefit from this country. I have a privilege in this country. But basically what I'm saying is to my country, you are sanctioning and being the top bully in an entirely undemocratic process. How can we, as Americans, possibly live with the hypocrisy of supporting a set of trade sanctions that is entirely undemocratic? We talk about sending democracy all over the world, but we're just bullying everybody else into getting the kind of trade that we want.
Is your organization involved in this and other actions throughout the week here in Seattle?
Oh, we're here. we're involved with a lot of different things. I've been involved with the teach-ins, with the different kinds of educational workshops. I want to go and I want to join with the labor movement today and march with them. So we're just, we're all coming together. There's a lot of people who, one of our oil campaigner is part of that lockdown right over here. We're all participating in different ways.
And you were checking in to find out what's going on around the perimeter here. Could you tell our viewers what's been happening?
Basically, from what I know, there are blockades all the way around the convention center area. We have been very successful in shutting down all traffic. And what is happening now is that delegates are having to walk in. And as you may have seen before, some of the Philippine delegates were here and they couldn't walk through. And there were other delegates who can't walk through because we're blocking it with a chain. We had a really interesting give and take with the Philippine delegates, actually, where they were saying, why are you all, saying that we're all the same, all the delegates, the United States and these developing nations are trying to force their agenda, and we're trying to, help our people. And we said, no, we understand that. And, we're here because we're in solidarity with the people in your country who are suffering from these trade rules. So basically what's happening logistically is this is a symbolic shutdown. There should be trade rules. There should be fair trade. And we want to see the WTO, if there is to be a World Trade Organization, we want to see it incorporate all those protections for human rights, labor, the environment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we're doing today is we're saying, no, we're going to shut this thing down to the extent that we're going to make it really difficult for them to conduct business as usual.
Do you think those Philippine delegates got that out of the exchange with you?
I think, they walked away really feeling like we were educated. That when he started out, he was saying, you guys need to educate yourself. You don't know what's going on. And as we talked, as we discussed different things, he said, well, I guess you guys are educated. I guess you do understand, thank you.
And how long did that exchange take?
Oh, it was going on I was involved with it for about 15, 20 minutes, but it was a really interesting talk. I have his card in my pocket, he's got my card, and we're hoping, we're working with a community actually in the Cordillera in the Philippines. It's an indigenous community of Igorot, the Igorot people, and we're helping them resist open pit, large-scale toxic gold mining, which is completely non-essential and it violates human rights and the environment incredibly. And so I was talking to him about the Philippine Mining Act and how it's liberalized investment rules and allows foreign capital come flowing in. And he said, well, maybe you're more educated on that than I am. That's not my district, and he could put me in touch with different people. So, we're finding a way to bridge this gap.
Thanks for talking with our viewers on Network X today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for covering it.
Actually, your lips are blue.
Are they?
Yeah. Are you cold?
I am,
That's a sign of hypothermia.
Are you here for the WTO convention?
I am from NGO, Brazilian show.
Oh, what NGO?
For agriculture producers.
What production? What does it do? What does it do? What's its purpose?
Yes, it's a beef meat production and agriculture producers there in Brazil.
A beef meat production NGO?
No, I am NGO, but my activity is produce corn, soybean.
What produces
Sir, listen. Go up the hill.
It appears the group has been successful turning back a number of delegates. We're going to see if we can get to interview this group right here now.
I am showing you.
No, I want to enter my hotel.
Yes, I know. And
I don't want to go to the meeting. I want to go to the hotel where I'm here. I'm a guest.
You have to understand.
I'm happy to be here. I'm NGO as you are. We're on equal terms. And I can't go to my hotel.
I didn't see your NGO identification.
What do you mean you've seen? But what I wanted to show you was my hotel identification.
No, I see your hotel. But see, the point is, the WTO is not proceeding through here.
No, but I want to go to the hotel. I don't want to go
I
to the
understand
WTO.
that. And you have access to your
The
hotel from
the H
another
is
route.
No, I do not.
Yes,
I came
you do.
from there.
Yes, you do, because
You're not well informed.
You have
I came
official
from there.
identification. You know what, sir?
And you're being sarcastic.
No, I'm not.
And I'm not trying. I just want to go to the hotel.
I understand. I understand.
I'm not going to waste my time with you because you're being sarcastic with me. I'm an NGO just as you. I'm coming here to participate just as you.
I understand. And I'm trying to explain to you what an alternative is because
You
the
are
police
not informed. I came from there. And I'm not going to walk a half an hour again. You're not informed correctly. You should talk with your friends and get the information
So what I
correct.
can let you know is this is not the place where anyone has access.
My hotel.
Further question for you. Obviously, there was a little misunderstanding there. You were saying that as an NGO, he should have NGO identification and such.
And I'll tell you the reason I did that, because as this brother just pointed out, isn't that the same as any checkpoint Charlie demanding identification? And the reason I would make a small distinction about that is when we first started the conversation, I said, hey, great, if you're in an NGO, what's the name of it? And all he kept saying is, I'm NGO just like you, I'm NGO just like you, I'm here as your guest. I said, that's fine, what's the name of your NGO? He wouldn't say. I said, do you have any identification that shows you're an NGO? And he opened his coat and he had his finger partway over a badge. And so I said, well, what is your NGO? He goes, I'm NGO just like you. I want to get to my hotel. I said, come with me. I can show you an alternative because the police are not letting people by. And we right now we're standing up against the global sweatshop. And then he's told me I was getting sarcastic. So I said to him again, let me show you an alternative. You have your ID to get through, go all the way around. He said, I did that already, they didn't let me through, you're being sarcastic. We went through one more cycle of the same exchange, and then he turned his back and folded his arms, and I just said, this isn't a place where you have access. And that was it.
It looks like we've got the first sign.